Hello everyone, it's Vic here from Forever Scrapping, sharing a layout that I've made using the Truly Grateful collection by Paige Taylor Evans. So I decided I'd work with a cut file this time. It was a cut file that I found on Paige's Facebook page and was free to download. And I thought it went perfectly with her new paper collection. So I've decided to do an autumnal theme layout this time. The weather has definitely turned here in the UK in the last few days. It's been very wet and windy, and the trees are finally beginning to get a little bit of autumnal colour in them. And this wreath I thought was lovely, so I cut it out on my silhouette. It's got like oak leaves and acorns and a few other types of leaf, and I thought the colours of the Truly Grateful collection were quite autumnal. So I found a couple of photographs from way back. I think my daughter was 4 in this photo. I think it was 2013 that it was taken, November-ish time. We used to like heading off to the National Trust, as quite a lot of young families do. It's always good fun to let the children run riot in the grounds and let some steam off. And one of our local National Trusts is Cliveden, so this was taken there. They've got some really lovely maple trees there, so that's what the tree is in the background there, the nice red colours. So I decided, instead of having that autumnal wreath going all the way round, that I'd cut it up a little bit to create a crescent shape, and decided where I was going to place my 2 photographs. Karis was enjoying playing in the fallen leaves. I think we were playing a game of hide and seek at the time, but it wasn't very successful, I don't think. They're more interested, her and Isabella, in throwing the leaves up in the air and having some fun. So I managed to capture it on camera. So instead of leaving my cut file plain, I decided that I would back it. So just using some of the papers from the collection, I wanted to try and keep as realistic to the colours of the acorns and the leaves as possible. So as you can see, I've cut like a little square of backing paper that would cover the area, and then applied adhesive, just some glue. I think Cosmic Shimmer glue is what I work with on the back, and then once it was stuck down, trim round it. It's a great way for using up scraps of paper as well. So I don't want to cut all of this sheet of paper, because on the other side it's got those gorgeous trees of different colours that I just absolutely love. So I don't want to just like cut away at that piece of paper. I want to try and savour it as much as possible, so that's why I'm just like trimming off tiny bits that I can use to back my cut file as I go around. I think you can see some of the trees on the backs of that paper that I'm sticking down now. So I've sped this up a little bit for you, and also cut quite a lot of the backing off as well. I ended up backing the leaves too, but they were a bit more fiddly to cut than the acorns themselves. So what I did was I placed my cut file on the paper and drew round the shape with some pencil, and then cut slightly within the line, just so it wasn't quite so fiddly to cut, and I'd get a cleaner edge. So there you go, just deciding what colours I was going to have. So there's the cut file all backed. And then I wanted to try and match those colours with some mixed media background. I did pre-prepare this sheet of cardstock with some gesso the day before doing this layout, just to try and prevent it from warping as much, because I'm adding quite a lot of water on this, and I'd run out of marshmallow cardstock, which is great. It's a bit thicker and good for coping with wetter mediums on it. So This is my old watercolour palette from when I did art, GCSE and A-level at school. So it's very old, but I'm still using it. And as you can see, it's been well used along the way. So I wanted to try and match the colours to where the acorns and the leaves were. So the greens where the leaves were, and the yellows and browns where the acorns were. And just use my heat gun to dry it a bit quicker. You can see I'm cuddling my dog in the corner there. She came to join me, little Miss Snowy, bless her. And if you look closely as well, you can see that I've also, on that cardstock, before applying my watercolour, I've used some of the bits that were left behind from that cut file, because I wanted to add a little bit more layer and depth to my layout and a little bit more interest. So I placed, what I had done was place the wreath on once it was filled and backed, and then just in a few places added a couple more leaves and acorns behind. And I didn't want to add any colours to those, just thought if I added a little splash of watercolour to it here and there, that would just pick up those cut files there. Autumn is one of my favourite times of year. Don't get me wrong, I do love the summer and the sun and everything, but you can't beat those crisp autumnal mornings when you go out for a dog walk, and the colours of the countryside are just beautiful. I really like it, and there's nothing better after a coldish day out walking to come back and have a nice cup of hot chocolate with all the toppings, of course. So I just added a bit more. It wasn't quite dark enough for me there. Add a little bit more watercolour and warmed it up. So to add another layer of depth to my layout, I've then backed the cut file with some sticky foam pads. I like using the sheets because it's easier for me. You can cut it to size and cover a bigger area quicker, and also then it's less fiddly trying to remove the backing of all those little pads. I usually use tweezers to get that backing off the back of my foam pad, but they've gone walkabouts. They're not in my scrapbooking pencil case anymore. I'm not quite sure where they've gone. Probably a little pair of hands has got hold of them and decided to use them for themselves. So unfortunately, I cut my nails the other day, so I did struggle getting the backing off of all of these pieces of foam pad, but I did get there in the end. So I haven't covered the whole area, because in case I wanted to tuck any ephemera behind the cut file itself or the photos. But I've covered the middles really of the leaves and the acorns on there. So just add in the last few bits there. And then, as you can see, the laborious task of taking all the bits off the back of the foam pads with short nails. It's not a good recipe, and it did take me a while, but I persevered and I got there in the end. I'm sure there's lots of other easier ways of doing it and taking the backing off those foam pads as well, other than a pair of tweezers or using your fingers. But that's just what works best for me. So you can see now those colours are dry. They're quite intense, but you're not going to see a lot of it anyway, because once that cut file's down, it's going to cover up most of those colours, and it's just going to seep out from the edges from underneath those leaves and acorns on the reef. It's just to add a little splash of colour to it, and also to ground that cut file so it doesn't look like it's just floating on the middle of my page. So just double checking that I'm putting it where I'd like it. And I've coloured matched it not too badly, I don't think, so stuck it down, and then to decide which way round to put my photos. So I was happy with that placement there, and then underneath was where I was going to put the title and my journaling. So decided these photos need a little bit of backing just to pop them up, and rather than just put them straight on some coloured pattern cardstock, I decided to mount them on white first, because I just felt otherwise the coloured background would just merge into those red leaves on the photo too much. So just a real thin slither of white matting around. And I went into my Amy Tangerine Slice of Life 6x8 pad from the Think Happy kit, because I felt that orange went really well with the colours that I'd used on the layout. And I didn't know if I was going to do a strip of it underneath or whether I was going to actually then mat the photos completely on there. Decided that I would mat the photos with it rather than just doing a strip. So again, nothing too wide on that matting, but just enough just to tie it all in together. So I wanted to tuck some bits underneath that cut file, so that's why those foam pads were really good for that. Just to add a little bit more layering. Committing to where I was going to put those photos now. And then there we go. Now I've got that lovely tree paper, the bits that I didn't use. I really wanted to add some of those onto my layout to replicate the colours that the trees were changing. So fussy cut 3 of them out. A couple of green ones, and then I think I went for an orangey one just to link in with the colours of the acorns and that backing paper that I'd done around my photograph. Didn't want it too green. So just deciding what order to pop those in. I always think everything looks better in odd numbers, so I stuck to 3 trees. And then I used some of the stickers and the puffy stickers from the Truly Grateful collection as well. So it all tied in really, really nicely. So just now to decide where to add the finishing little touches to the page, my little bits of ephemera. And I don't usually use puffy stickers that much. I don't think the last day of Scraptember was use puffy stickers, so this would tie in really nicely with that. I can't quite believe it's October already, but so I went a bit mad with those puffy stickers in the end. So before sticking those on, just wanted to stick those trees down. I was happy with the placement on those. And again, using some sticky foam just to add a little bit of layering. I don't like my layouts being too flat. And then decided that the title was going to be Cliveden, which was the name of the National Trust that we went to on that day. And I used some lovely rose gold letters from a previous Lottie Loves Paper kit. I wasn't too fussed about them being completely straight, so I alternated the heights of each letter, a little bit higgledy-piggledy, and then added my journaling in, which has now filled up that bottom corner quite nicely. And I started sticking extra little acorns on and all my puffy stickers. Went a bit mad with the puffy stickers in the end, but I just wanted to add a little bit more interest around that wreath. A little squirrel. So yeah, was really just a case of finishing the page off now, adding all those little finishing touches, now that the main part of it was done. Having a little fiddle around. And I had thought that I'd finished at the end, but then as a last minute thing decided I wanted to add some coloured thread into the page as well. So I raided my sewing box and found some threads that were greens and yellows. Doing my classic signature line around my pages that I like to do. Had to be careful because the pen didn't dry immediately on the gesso background, so I didn't want to smudge it, so had to be really careful with that one. And also decided it needed some ink spray, so I used some brown dilution inks for that, and also some gold, just to finish it off. I wasn't too bothered if it went over my cut file, but I just didn't want it to go over my photograph. I always get really annoyed if I've almost finished a page and then at the last minute I go and ruin it in my eyes by getting splatters of ink on photographs and things. So anyway, I'll just let you watch the last few finishing touches on it. Thank you very much for watching. If you've liked my video, then please give it a thumbs up. I'd really appreciate it. And if you could follow me, that would be lovely. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope everyone in the UK has got a glorious sunny day like we have today. And yes, I'll catch up with you soon. Thanks for watching. Bye.